We'll be recording this meeting so that anyone who can't attend today can watch it in the future as well. Or if you want to rewatch it at your own time, you're welcome to do that. So welcome to the Olmsted Community Alliance Spring Meeting for the MLK Junior Park. Woo! Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you and look forward to sharing more about the park, MLK Park for this season. So a quick agenda overview. We had the open house, which is a new format that we'll be using moving forward for our district-wide meetings. And it's basically time for you to walk around, find out questions that you might have for any specific project. And we have Brian here in the room where he can tell you more about, answer your questions or direct you to someone who can better answer your questions. And more information on this is also on the agenda that a few of you might already have. If you do not have, it's on the table over here. Or you can also scan the QR code and look at it online. So a quick overview, the staff present here today as myself, Brian, Joanne Flores, she's our gift coordinator and handles all commemorative giving and also in our Idea, Equity and Inclusion Committee. Troy Drake, he is with MLK Junior Park District Supervisor. So Troy and his team keeps the park going. And if you have any questions or feedback, he's here for you today as well. Any other staff member I'm missing? And a couple of people that you might see from time to time, our Executive Director Stephanie, as well as other team members. Ricky, who you might see in MLK Park as well, is in Troy's team and super great. Quick overview of OCA is mainly hopefully meant to be a bridge between the Conservancy, who maintains and stewards the Olmsted parks, and the community. So we are hoping that we can create meaningful and safe spaces for you to share your feedback. And also, if you know anyone in the community who is interested to learn more about the parks or have questions or concerns, invite them to an OCA meeting or give them my card or my information. And I would love to have coffee, meet with them anywhere that's convenient for them and build a relationship from there. So OCA basically has two kinds of meetings moving forward. There's the district-wide meeting, which is what we're having, what is going on here right now, where we'll give an overview of all the upcoming projects and ongoing projects for MLK Park. And then there's project-specific meetings where it's more specific to one project in general. So for example, if any of these projects here that require specific community engagement in the next few months, we'll send an email to everyone again. And if you're interested and want to share your input, you can come to that project-specific meeting. Any questions so far? Nice to see you as well, Lorna. So a quick overview on community engagement. The Conservancy has been really grateful and super proud and honored to be partnering with the Buffalo African American Museum for the past few years. And just this year, we were really proud to partner with them on the first ever Together as One to celebrate Black History Month. So today in this room, we have Mr. Clifford Bell, Ms. Ellen Harris Harvey, and Mr. Al Price, Model Galt, Sam Coleman, Dolores. So thank you all for being here. They are all board members, is that right? Yes. Board members of the Buffalo African American Museum. And we've been really in a place of a lot of learning and as well as exploration on how the culture as well as the history of this park ties in with the neighborhood. So they have a new website right here. Feel free to go take a look. And this was a flyer that we shared in February as part of Black History Month. Some little spiel for BAM. Call for volunteers if there's anyone who is interested in getting more involved. They would, and you have expertise in research, history, grant writing, volunteering in many different capacities, PR and marketing. Reach out to anyone who's the board members who are here, or you can reach out to me and I can send them to BAM as well. Would anyone from BAM like to say a few words? No pressure.
Oh, only,
Of course he will stand up.
Oh, I will. I thought you recognized someone back there.
No, you.
No. Just briefly, I'm Brother Bell, the president of the BAM organization. wanted to say that we have many of our members here. Trustees, the board there, we are interested in people who have an interest in history, in particular Black history. And our major focus is on the achievements of African Americans that are Buffalonians or associated with Buffalo that have made reputation for themselves historically. We have a lot of famous people that were born and raised in Buffalo that are not recognized by us in Buffalo. We don't have a very good reputation, as you know, nationally. They talk about us like Buffalo. I was born and raised and proud of it, love it. Could be someplace else, would rather be here. Like to have you, those of you who are really interested, serious to seeing us and here. So we'd like to invite you to a meeting, get a better idea of what we're doing. This relationship with Olmsted is special because whether you know it or not, the monument that was sponsored and built to Dr. King's memory is located in the park. It's the second largest in the country, and it was designed by a sculptor who was trained all around the world. They're beautiful, second largest in the United States, outside Washington, D.C. It is a display exhibit inside the shelter house that gives the history of where this was built, how it was built, who was associated with it. It was established on October the 1st, 1983, where a couple of thousand people came to a grand opening, saw it unveiled. We have since then exhibited on that and the YMCA, Michigan Avenue YMCA, and we displayed these materials in other places where we have presented that and other historical things about Buffalo. So if you're interested, we're trying to lay the groundwork for building an African American museum in the city of Buffalo. It's quite a challenge, so we need all the help we can get. Other than that, this relationship with the Olmsted has been fantastic because we get a chance now to work on making Martin Luther King Jr. Park a tourist destination. That's our goal. So when people come to Buffalo, other than want to see a historic corridor, they're going to want to come and see what's happening at the park because it's going to be modernized. There's going to be all kinds of apps, speeches, saying stuff. Sir.
From the park, so that people can do businesses and prosper from the
That's a whole nother plan. And I'm not prepared to deal with it. I'm only prepared to deal with plan we're laying, try to work the groundwork, and involved. We have a great relationship with the Kings and Queens Institute and Black Achievers. All right. But we don't have anything to do with what's that major construction that's happening. We're becoming aware of it. We don't have anything to do with that. Ours is the single focus on this relationship with African Americans in Buffalo. And this is a nice stepping stone because it's named for the whole Olmsted group. Frederick Law Olmsted was the park designer, known internationally for his great work. This is the only park named after an individual in the heart of the Black community. The whole park is a tribute to Dr. King. So we're going to make sure it's beautiful. My buddy knows when we come over here talking about looks and flowers and stuff, beautiful. When they come to Buffalo, starting after the middle of next year, they're going to want to see our music. With the role we're playing, Brother Bill getting kind of old. I'm going to be 94 this year. So y'all got to hurry up if you're going to help.
Come on.
Now, young man.
efforts to develop that corridor so that people understand out of a community within this development.
Absolutely, but you have to talk to the Heritage Corridor folk. They have a larger plan. And there's a whole nother group we won't go into this evening. You'll get an invitation to find some meetings that the president of our block club is involved in, that's laying the groundwork for developing that whole area where they're going to cover the park and do all those things. That's a whole nother world. Brother Bill can't do all that.
What block club is doing that? That's me.
Right there. Ellen Harvey, see her, she's the president of the block club. She's busy. Thank you.
Mr. Bell. Thank you.
Your block club? None.
All right, thank you.
Oh.
So before we go into the project, I wanted to give David from the Buffalo Museum of Science, where's the, oh, a few minutes to share about the construction project that's going on at the Science Museum right in MLK Junior Park.
Stage is yours. Welcome. I want to say first, Troy, I don't know if you remember me, but in the snowstorm, you dug us out. Thank you, man. Yes. I'm never gonna forget you, buddy. He's getting all stuff himself. So, yeah, I'm David from the Science Museum. Happy to be here and see all the work going on in MLK Park and in the neighborhood and the 33. And it's our time, right? Okay. So the Science Museum's been on trying to get a project underway for the last 10, 12 years, and we finally were successful. You'll notice if you're in the neighborhood walking around or driving around, you'll see that the front stairs have been torn off the museum, and you'll notice some lights on the building. We were going to hold off on the lights until the construction was done, but Crystal said, put the lights on. So they're on.
Yeah.
So we're tweaking the colors a little bit because the city has a program called Buffalo Lit, LIT, and they put out messages every month about what color schemes the city is following. So we're going to try following that program as well, and so you'll see us doing that. The stairs project is a very big project for us. It started back in October. It was supposed to start much earlier than that, but things got a little bit delayed. But now it's underway. They're in the phase right now of demolition. They're removing every stone piece by piece. They're numbering it, taking some of it off site to be prepared to come back in the late summer and then be reassembled. So in the next couple of weeks, they tell me they're going to start with jackhammers, breaking up some of the cement that's in between all the steps. There was cement pads, large cement pads. That'll take them a couple of weeks to demo that all out and remove all that. And then they'll start the electrical work. I don't know if you remember back in the day, there's 16 lamp posts with like snowball lights on there. Those are all going to be refurbished and coming back with new LED fixtures in them. So it's going to look stunning. You think it looks really great now with the nice lights up on the facade. I can't wait to see it with those other lights. So it's really great. We're super excited about it. They're saying end of July. I'm not really confident that that's the real date yet. There's bi-weekly meetings. There's supposed to be one tomorrow, but it's postponed until next week. So I'll know more about how the schedule is going. But so we're really confident that it's going to be in the fall. We're also planning, I'm not supposed to really say too much about it, but we're planning a block club neighborhood party to welcome you all to the front steps of your building that you haven't seen in I don't know how many years. We did some looking at the numbers, and the stairs were closed more years than they were open.
Wow.
So just a little FYI, we're not going to be using that as our main entrance yet. We're waiting to see what shakes loose with the 33. How the roadway is going to get changed and all that. Want to see what happens with the neighborhood. So before that all happens, we'll be, welcoming people in to look at our plans, just like Olmsted's doing, to say, hey, what does the neighborhood think of this? This is what we're planning on doing. What do you think? So hopefully sometime this fall, we'll have a little celebration on the front steps of the Science Museum. We're going to hopefully open that up in the future for programming outside so that the science isn't always just inside. We're hoping to do some outside as well. So, yes. It could be concerts. It could be science demonstrations, things we can't do inside a building that might make sense, outside instead where there's, no height restrictions and such. You could contact me. I could give you my card. I'm not the right person, but I can get you to the right person. And you can always drop a line at our website, and somebody will funnel that information as well. It's www.sciencebuff.org. Yes. I'm sorry, can you say that last part? Oh, yeah. So it's a city-run project. So the deadline, they're saying mid-July. Right. But
to now had to have included someone that you hired to produce these documents, these
drafts and the reports and also your plan?
Yeah, so like I said, it's a city-run project, so they have all that documentation available. And if you contact me, I can try to make it available to you as well. Yep, they have, the city has, I think it's a 33% MWB quota that they needed to meet. There's a compliance officer through the city.
Sorry, actually,
No,
get on.
that's okay. So I'm sorry, you know, I'm happy, I can give you my card. I'm happy to have the conversation with you more. Sorry to, but you know, if you want to know more, you can reach me at the Science Museum. Just look us up on the website or give me a call. I can get those guys on.
But yes, any questions, definitely go to David after the presentation. So a quick overview, one of the ongoing projects right now is the activation of the MLK Junior Park Casino. So right now the Conservancy is working with the city of Buffalo to draft the RFP. And once the RFP process is, once the timeline, the schedule and the RFP is published, we will be putting together a task force in partnership with the council member to have the task force be part, basically the task force will be made up of community members to ensure that the RFP process and that we pick a concessionaire that makes sense and is wanted by the neighborhood. So if you have any questions or you want to learn more about the process or the MLK casino specifically, you can come to me after the meeting. Just a quick overview of the casino in case anyone's wondering. This is the upper floor layout. And it's also on that sign at the back there, so you can look at it later. The upper floor will be mainly for the concessionaire. And the lower floor is for the concessionaire and open to the public. So when the RFP is drafted, the RFP will state in there that whoever runs the casino has to make sure that you take into account public use of the building, such as restrooms, when the splash pad is open, to make sure that you're serving the kids and the users of the pool and the splash pad. And last but not least from me, special events, there is the special events team at the Conservancy, which is pretty new in the last few months, working with the city to put together like a special events packet so that special events organizers are better prepared for your event coming up. So they are in the works right now, and prior to the event, a few weeks prior to your event, they will send you a packet as all the reminders to follow. These are the things to check off, make sure you're well prepared, as well as a point of contact from the Conservancy when you go to your event. There will also be a preferred vendor list, which we are working on. And the preferred vendor list will have like special discounts when you go through them as a vendor. So for example, porta potties, we've looked for a vendor that is willing to work with us to give discounts for the special events organizers. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I know that there's some people on Zoom who are special events organizers. Do you have any questions? Okay, if any questions, you can reach out to me after as well. And this is Carly's contact.
Yes, I do have a question.
Sure. Hi, Manada.
Hi. I'm just curious that, so are you talking about vending far as portable, and you're talking about production as well?
Yes,
Have you
so
worked
we
out
will.
something?
Yep, so we're identifying, so you remember how we had the vendor survey that went out to some special event organizers a few months
Yeah.
ago?
Yes.
So those are the categories where we are finding a preferred vendor for each category, especially
Okay.
basically every category you can think of for a special event. AV, porta potties, security, tents, and things like that. So we will have a preferred vendor for each, where if you go through them, you would have a discount when you have an event in the Olmsted Parks.
And then it's scaled to the size of the event as well? Like I'm thinking
Yeah,
about
so-
myself, and it's so we have a really big production, so, you know, is it scaled
so-
to the size of the event?
Yeah, so every vendor has their own agreement with the Conservancy in terms of what kind of discount. So
Mhm.
like you said, it's depending on the scale of the event. So it won't be a standardized X number of percentage off. It will be more of like, depending on how big your event is, they will work with you to give you some kind of discount. But we are working with the vendor to make sure that that discount happens so that
Okay.
there is communication from you, with you guys, as well as with the vendor.
And that will be when you do the application, when you file the application, or is it on your
Yes, so-
website somewhere? Only because I'm in the process now of you know.
So once you file the application, once you file the special events permit application, there will come to a point in the process where you will have to talk to Carly Stockton, and she will do a site walkthrough and all the things like that. So during that phase, she will give you the information if you are interested in the vendor list.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll pass it off to Brian.
All right, thanks, C. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Sorry,
Uh,
Anita.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello.
That has a
Oh,
question.
more questions?
Anita, go ahead.
All right, hi. Thanks, Marnetta, for those questions that you asked. That kind of helped me out as well. Now, I already have my permit in hand for our event coming up in August. I've taken care of all of that. I haven't received yet what you're speaking about in terms of the other informations, which I'm interested in getting. How quick can I get that?
Sure, I will tell Carly to email you this week or the following week.
Okay, all righty, thank you.
So the special events packet is still in the works, so you may not get it till you're closer to your event. But if you're interested in the vendor list, I will share it. I will let her know to pass it along to you.
Yeah, I just want to make sure when you say, so that I'm understanding, correctly, that does not impede our, the process that many of us have already gone through. I've already gone through
Absolutely
satisfying
not.
the city.
It does not, yeah, it does not impede with your process. This is in
All right,
addition.
because I'm already
support
done with,
to event
okay.
organizers.
All right, thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Or I'm sorry, just to interject, or to use it as leverage for getting some fair pricing from even competition. So there.
Exactly. You kind of need that fairly soon,
I hate to
prior
say-
to.
I
You know what I
hate to
mean?
say that part, but yeah.
It's true. And
it is
you definitely need that relatively soon because
Yes.
you're making these plans now to
Yes.
handle your business.
Absolutely. Right
Yeah.
now.
Thank
Right
you.
now.
Yeah, and if you want to talk more about this conversation, I can direct you to Carly after this meeting. Yep. Thank you
Yeah,
both.
okay, I'll call later. Thank you.
All right, great. So we've had some great conversation here. Again, I do want to be conscious of time. We're supposed to be wrapping up all project conversation in the next 15 minutes. So we'll move things along. Do want to open it up for conversation. If it's an in-depth question, we are going to break back out into open house at the end so we can dive into like some real detail-oriented questions. But just want to be conscientious of everybody's time. So I've got a few projects to go through. The first couple we've talked about several times. They are under construction. So we want to make sure people are aware of those things that are in the works happening right now. And then there's another couple projects that are more in the design phase and want your feedback as we're sort of building out those plans. But we've talked about lighting at several of these meetings. Again, that project is well underway in terms of all the photometrics, but just wanted to share. So again, the focus of this project was really mainly the east side of the park. We identified that as highly deficient from a safety standpoint, lots of really dark, dangerous areas. So all that new lighting has gone in. Again, as a part of this process, what made it more complicated, what made it more expensive was that the city bought back all of this lighting. So now National Grid doesn't own the wires, the lights on the top. There was like the city fixes the pole, National Grid fixes the light. The city owns it all. So all of that has been switched over. So we've clicked those lights on. Now what we need to do is get rid of all of National Grid stuff. So the contractor is coordinating with National Grid and that old pole removal will be starting in the next couple of weeks. In addition, following all of the finishes and repairs related to the to the safety project. And again, here's the pedestrian level lighting. We also replaced, hopefully you guys have seen the larger broad spectrum LED lighting around the basin that we've replaced. So now those shorter poles that only cast light a certain number of feet have all been replaced with decorative Olmsted standard sort of larger broadcast poles.
Brian,
Yes.
next question
Yeah.
quickly. I live on North Parade.
Mhm.
It seems to be neglected. Is that part of like a phase 2 or something? Are we gonna get enhanced lighting?
So you're talking North Parade on the west half of the
On
park, I
North-
would assume?
So, yeah, I think that would be like the North Parade. That's
The west side of the park. Yeah.
Uh-huh,
Yep. So
uh-huh,
again, as we talked about, the east half of the park
yeah.
was severely deficient. This is phase 1. So we focused on areas and we focused on getting light onto pathways and sidewalks.
Right,
So all of that light is focused on pathways and sidewalks. As we move on to phase 2 and fundraiser phase 2, that will move over to the east half of the park. But again, the focus will be on pathways and sidewalks. So the concern of lighting along the streets, that is a streets, not a parks issue.
Oh, God,
So
that's
it's-
under the city?
So we're working together
Uh-huh.
and we're working towards making everybody happy.
Yes.
But, you know, as resources being limited, you know, we're certainly not going to go do the work of the streets for them when we have
Right. So
to
last
focus all of
summer-
our energy on.
Last summer, well, 2
parks.
summers ago, a car knocked like, and they actually told us that what you said. The National Grid owns one part of the light
Yep.
pole and the city owns the other part. of it.
Yep.
So this is gonna be 3 years now that that light pole has not been replaced. And then, of course, it's a nice, cute, curvy street, but there's dangerous dark spots.
Yeah. So
Oh.
again, the city's working towards it. It's a very complicated process. We've sort of done it for a small portion. Our goal is to keep that process moving. But again, this was up over $1 million to do what we did. And, you know, we're not going anywhere. So we need to move the next phase and move the needle. But this is, I guess, showing that it can be done, showing that we can get good light out into park spaces, you know, with the focus on safety.
Brian, I have something to say.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you because I got a lot of calls and they were saying how beautiful the park looks. And one lady said it looked like Central Park in New York City, but it does. It looks very nice. It's very lit up. But I had a question about over there where they live at too, because I know she's talking about on the sidewalk, but in the park, I thought it would have at least been a couple loopholes over there. There's nothing new over there. And I'm talking about in the park. So I was just wondering, maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 along inside the park.
Yeah.
Was that in the phase? I mean, in the first phase or no?
So in the first phase was here. So around the basin
Okay,
and around the basketball court.
okay,
And we even had to, you know, with everything getting more expensive, we had to value engineer that down a little bit. So it's like if we had a pole here, we're taking out a pole here. So it's
Oh.
like, it was a very tough process, but again, based on
Well,
the
thank
input we got, we made this progress. Yes, sir.
We're talking about lighting the park that's closed at 10 o'clock.
Correct.
Pretty heavy investment for the park that's closed.
Yeah, but there's a lot of hours in between, you know, especially in winter.
Time of year.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Olmsted service would be interested in extending the hours, especially only for special events? And then induce security to increase whatever safety limits for people who are there to walk through that park, with or without the additional lighting, because the park is actually closed. Is it only closed for Conservancy approved events, or does it close in general?
Well, all parks close at 10 PM, all city parks, and that's a city law.
All parks closed, but only to the extent that they close in any official capacity.
Right.
They wouldn't have something, function about increasing that if there was a sufficient reason to do it. But we're gonna invest millions of dollars in upkeep and maintenance for a park that's closed at night. Well, and you know Buffalo's sun don't shine that long. What the hell, dude? And we need to have a better handle on what kinds of activities will occur. within that park to be able to take maximum advantage of having made such an investment. So that we get the double bang of having had security improvements for those who do transfer park, as well as for being able to achieve or increase the likelihood of more attendance at the special event.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it actually came up at one of our other districts, because some of the parks close at 10 and some of the parks close at dusk. And
That could be
I did not
8.
have a good answer on why some parks are each. So I said for that community, I was going to go back to the city and get that clarified. So while I'm doing that, I'll get that sort of, how we made any of these decisions. Yeah. I do, yeah.
We should make the signage available to that fact, as well as to be able to talk that event or whatever's going on.
Yeah, great point, great point. All right, so lighting, again, like you can continue the detail of this conversation. The next phase of that is tied to artistic lighting. Again, we've talked about this to some degree. This is the next phase. So once they wrap up the security lighting, they're going to start on this phase of that project. There is money dedicated for it. And as the contractor finishes up one job, he's going to start on the other. I've been texting and emailing, hoping I could give you a date today, and I cannot. So it will happen. They're out there. They have nothing else to do except work in MLK Park. So it just says, when they get through one, they're going to get on to the other. But this is going to be a very exciting project that, again, happy to talk in more detail about. Yes, Stan.
How the lighting works.
Certainly. So there's a number of components. So again, it was all about, right now we've got 2 kind of spotlights that do a certain amount of illumination. But the thought was, amongst group, this is a beautiful piece of artwork. We should be using light to sort of light your path to the feature, provide direct spotlight onto the sculptural element itself. But the thought was, we've got beautiful landscaping behind, so we will be adding uplighting on the landscape behind. There's lighting within the landscape you can see that sort of illuminates that beautiful masonry wall. And in addition, there are lights at the perimeter that are going to be able to be controlled. LED, there's all sorts of new technology. So they're going to be able to change floodlights of color. So we'll have complete color control. So if we want to light it up, with like what they're doing over at the Science Museum, we can get on the Buffalo Lit program. But then also sort of certain spotlights down onto the plaza. So it basically takes what is pretty simple illumination and makes it much more what we think artistic and really highlighting the key features. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the masonry. It was originally put down very beautiful masonry. It became the disrepair, the benches that are around.
Yep.
They became the disrepair and they took this out. And
It's kind of
There's just, yep, there's,
parking. Will there ever be a return to the original masonry benches that was there?
so if you're interested in that conversation, I would suggest you get involved with that Buffalo African American Museum, because the additional elements, that's kind of where the sort of seed of this idea started. And, it's not going to end there. So the additional ideas of additional commemoration, thinking about the plaza, thinking about the landscaping, those conversations we're doing in partnership with that Buffalo African American Museum. So great ideas, I think, to bring to, the goals of that group. But yeah, I do remember those as well. But yeah, they did. Sadly, I think either one of them got hit by a plow, the sort of surface got cracked up, and the city made a decision to just sort of rip it all out and put down the concrete. So, all we can do is move forward. And I think, having good heads at the table help us with that.
I think, just very briefly, I think that I don't know how possible it is, because originally it was hand laid in sections. It was beautiful. What has happened over the years of the deterioration, Buffalo's winters. And then they had people driving over that, either removing snow or doing other things. So what we're doing now is filling in all those open home area so that there is a connection and making it so that it's more attractive, either landscape wise or keep people from driving. Like we made another effort in junction with them, making so that people could just not drive in and out of it, if you've seen them in other places. So those big boulders, I know some people don't claim it intercepts, but main reason is to make the park beautiful, and the cars shouldn't be driving in the park in the first place. But just so you know, originally it was allocated and was designed so that it would be hand laid by people who, that was their thing. It originally was beautiful, still has a lot of beauty and attention. We just want to focus with the lights, and we'll have a lot of apps that give excerpts of King's speeches, choirs singing, other things that are historically connected to the whole movement. And that's what you're gonna see in the next couple of years. You put your phone at the board like that, and somebody will be telling you something historically about the park, particular park, what happened there, who did it. History is very important. That's why we're working so hard.
All right, so not doing a very good job. Only got through one project in 10
You gotta
minutes.
stop taking
All right,
questions.
no, it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff.
Questions at the end.
All right, so to keep things moving on that line, there is another project ongoing. I've been assured this will be complete by June. The boulders have been put in. They've already started. Seen a lot of new tree plantings happening. We obviously know trees are not going to keep cars out, but it's a component of beautification and perimeter enforcement. So about 80 trees have gone in, but that's going to follow with replacing all of the wood bollards and boulders. And I could meet you over at that panel and we could talk about that more. Big projects that are starting up. And we'll be back with you guys again, as Z mentioned, as we need to have more focused conversations on design projects moving forward. One of those big ones is restoration of the MLK greenhouse. So this is obviously a facility we use and it's very productive, but we want to enhance it to make it more useful to the community, to allow more community groups too. Right now, it's very unsafe for anyone who we're not paying and we don't have insurance policies for. We are currently right now, this year is going to be all about doing all of the design. This is going to be a probably $6 million project. We're going to do a 100% of the design of this up front with an initial seed investment. As we get through that and finish it, if we have any money left over through that process, we're going to prioritize the stabilization of the North House. That is the most historic, the oldest, and sadly, the most closest to collapse at this point in time. So we're going to stabilize and start the reconstruction there. But again, this year is going to be all about the design planning. So we'll be certainly coming back to the community with that details as they unfold. Yes, ma'am. I think as we're moving through the design planning, that's a great thing to sort of bring into the conversation is the future seasons of Juneteenth. We should be connecting in with this greenhouse. So that's a great point to get in the design plans. And then once we get it fully reconstructed, then we'll be up and running to sort of coordinate with that event. That's a great point. We've got lots of people taking notes, so that'll be a part of it. Yeah.
I'll give you my card after this, that once we have the community engagement plan for the MLK greenhouse in works, we'll be in touch with Judy for sure.
When you come over, sorry, you have to catch the bus.
Oh, sure.
The other major project that we're moving into design, again, this has been a project that has come through our 5-year planning process, which I'll circle back on in a second. But one of the major issues was we had major deficiencies in lighting on the east side of the park, but we'd fixed all the pathways. We have major deficiencies in pathways on the west side of the park. So we identified up over nearly $1.5 million to reconstruct pathways on the park, on the west side of the park. What that buys you is roughly what I'm showing in black. So we are basically identified all the pathways that are deteriorating, I'm sure you guys know this better than I do, but you know, these are the pathways that are underwater, drainage issues, crusted up edges, cracked, tripping hazards abound. So we're focusing in on basically all of these older pathways are gonna get reconstructed. And we're moving that into design and into construction, hopefully by later this year. But again, we're gonna consistently coordinate all these projects with events, making sure that we're working within the confines of tailoring the work around not making major problems for our major and beloved events. So again, we'll be circling back, but very exciting preliminary planning happening with pathway reconstruction.
That's all in phase one.
So this is all, yeah, what I'm showing you is what we're gonna be able to do for sure. So not gonna come back to you and say, cut back. I really hope not. I'm gonna be hide my face if I have to. Another component of that is benches. So we're gonna be adding, there's really comparatively not enough benches in MLK Park compared to a lot of our other parks. So we're gonna come in and make a major investment in benches. We have established, and we're trying to do this with lighting, with benches, with other features, is establish standards that you only see in historic Olmsted parks to kind of make them special. So we went through and identified a standard that we've been using in other parks, and we want to bring that standard to MLK Park. So going to be adding a significant number of benches. I've already heard loud and clear, these benches need to have a central arm bar to keep people from reclining on them. So we're gonna, the next time you see that image, it'll have that on there. But park wide, we're gonna be adding in comprehensive benches on concrete pads throughout the park. That is another funded project we'll be circling back with you on. And then I think the last thing in terms of projects, before I pause for a second, is really more an informational piece. There is a major project happening with the Kensington Expressway. It's being run by the Department of Transportation. They're going through the environmental review process. I don't know why that happened, but it's ongoing. It's going to be going throughout the rest of this year for sure and into 2024. So now is the time to get engaged with this. Sure people are aware of the fact that Humboldt Parkway, the beautiful parkway, used to be the connection between Delaware Park and MLK Park, just like Bidwell and Chapin and Lincoln Parkway, which still exists, connect portions of the west side. So the goal has always been, we need to restore this connection, and part of that is going to be achieved through this deck project. But the key thing here is they've identified a community outreach liaison. So I can't tell you the nuts and bolts of this project, but if you either reach out to Solar Ingram, you can go to 878 Humboldt Parkway. She is there Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturday. Why do you keep dancing? And you can email her. So again, we can circle back on this slide, but please get engaged with this project. It's going to be a generational decision that we're making. So with that, I can circle back, go into any details. Again, we can talk more at the boards on detailed questions, but this is the moment in time where we sort of open it up for any general park concerns or any things we have not discussed. Yes, sir.
33 projects
Yes, sir.
supposed to be covered up.
Again, the plan that they're studying right now is a deck over that, but that's not a project that I can tell you about. That's a Department of Transportation project to get engaged with.
We've had no discussion about what is going to happen with these issues.
Again, DOT needs to answer those questions for sure. I mean, and the great thing I can tell you is that there are a lot of people that are engaged. Everyone here should be getting engaged, but there are a lot of people already engaged, already asking those questions, holding their feet to the fire. So be confident that the answers will be gotten. It's not my job to give them to you, thankfully, and I certainly don't have the expertise.
Question because of the role of the Conservancy with respect to the park.
Yep.
And plus it's involved in the parkway, and the Conservancy has that virtual control over all of those parks, which includes those pathways. I don't know how they get around people with gate.
They don't get, yeah.
So far to get, no get, cars, no cars.
Yep, no, that's great. I mean, we are there. We're involved in the stakeholder committee. They have monthly meetings. There's also a section 106, which is a required historic preservation group, and we're involved in that. So I've got more meetings with the DOT than I, know what to do with. But again, they're sort of trickling out this information. They're doing these models of air quality, of traffic volume, et cetera, et cetera. Certainly when we feel like there's information that the larger community needs to know, we'll pass that along. But right now, we're on the receiving end of some of that. Yes, ma'am. You're great leader, and yes. Ready for it? Ready to move on? Yeah, I mean, I think you want to cover that.
So, sorry, sorry, what's your name? Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. So one of the elements of the Conservancy is, I guess, part of the mission is we do not have programming in the mission, which is why when in the past, we have not had the capacity to really focus on engaging the younger generation. But moving into the past year and this year, it's definitely become more of a priority, especially as our capacity has expanded. In terms of how we are reaching out to youth, that is under my role, which I've recently taken in the past year. So I'm open to feedback if you have any ideas and creative ideas, especially on how we can use these park spaces to engage the younger generation. One of the ways that I'm hoping to be more intentional about this year is to identify events. So as I was saying, there are a lot of special events in the parks already, and a lot of these special events already do engage the youth. And they are experts at what they do, correct? So for example, there is an upcoming event, I think hosted by Buffalo Wormworks with the Science Museum in MLK Park and the Science Museum, and is to engage the younger generation, to teach them about worms, pollinators, nature, how parks and nature can impact your lives. So the Conservancy hopefully would participate in that and reaching out to the younger generation, share about park history, and also how like native plants and how the parks are relevant to their lives. And other ways would be, for example, partnering with Say Yes on your Saturday academies in the schools and other opportunities that are already available throughout the city. So not just in the parks, but throughout the entire city of Buffalo, where there are these great organizations doing amazing work with the younger generation, the youth and the children, and how we can be part of that versus doing something, because we don't have the capacity to create a youth program, for example. We don't have teachers, we don't have educators, but we hopefully can look into these opportunities where they are willing to welcome us and share about the parks. I hope that answers your question. Absolutely, please, thank you. Yes. You first. Tennis courts, sure. Hold on one second. And what's your question? Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And make way or make room for the population to next. So that people will make them quicker.
Right. Right. Yeah, if you can let me circle back on that answer, I will. Yes, sir.
So actually the 200 year is from April 2022 to April 2023. Technically, we're still in the 200 year. Yeah. And we are having some upcoming events and what's it called? Like in Earth Week, for example, different organizations are doing a whole bunch of volunteering in the parks. We are too throughout the park system. And we're also planning a panel, a lecture, community conversation thing with a landscape architect. Her name is Sarah Zweedy, and she is I believe she's a Harvard landscape architect who is an expert on vegetable Olmsted. She's a Black woman-owned landscape architecture firm in the United States, and we have the pleasure of inviting her to come to Buffalo to do a presentation / community conversation on how the parks and how the parks tie in with civil rights movement as well as Dr. Look forward to more information on that. Yeah, but that will be one of the key events for this school. April. So the birthday, so it's kind of like the birthday is on April 26th, and his birthday again will officially end. But this panel event is scheduled to happen in May 16th, I believe. No, it wouldn't, but it will still be yeah. So we actually have a upcoming Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra full concert in MLK Park. And I don't remember the date. I think it's in July. So it'll be a full BPO concert in the park, in MLK Junior Park this year. Last year we had it in Casanova Park. So we're hoping that this partnership with the BPO can extend every single year. And this year we're doing it in MLK Park. So that's one of the other key events that we are having this year.
But the one year they had it in MLK Park.
The one that we had in MLK Park a few years ago was a smaller.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
rotating
And it went
concert.
around.
Yep, where the
Yeah, that was
brass, I
nice.
think it was the brass section, went to every single major Olmsted park.
Mhm.
So this year is the full BPO, which
Nice.
is
That's
amazing,
awesome.
and it's free for everyone, so bring your family and friends. I would definitely share it with the group after this on the final date. And also, we don't have a flyer yet, but once we have that, I'll share it.
Just very quickly, one of the main focuses that we had too is to try to get people in Buffalo to give ownership to the park. Gina, we talked about this a couple of times. Everybody we deal with should always be talking about the importance of Martin Luther King Park. We maintain it because it belongs to us, being named in someone who is one of us. So to do anything that deteriorates the park or disrespects the park is an attack on us. So if we start talking about having long conversations with the Juneteenth people, they agree, they're putting a exhibit together now that we're talking about. Ownership. People don't destroy stuff they own, but we've seen to. Now we got this fantastic park in the heart of the African-American community about one of the most famous people that ever lived, being dedicated to him in his name, and we should go there to uphold it. We've had to have almost additional police or security to stop people from driving on that, stop people from doing this destruction. You see, we should be talking about those of us that are in any position of contact or leadership should always say, I'm tired of people talking Buffalo. Buffalo's one of the greatest cities in the world to me. I know it's got a lot of bigotry and a lot of the bad stuff, but you gotta live through the bad stuff to get to the good stuff. That's what people did, which all of us are standing on. So,
That's right.
no, let's not go to sleep on that. Any place you go, anything you do, always put the uplifting of that park as a facility that we hope when we get all this modernization in, children can come get parks educated. We've already reached out to educators to have some kind of interrelationship where we can have instruction periods, educational periods, even if we have to use other facilities till we get one of our own. Because they're helping us. We're working with the Olmsted people and Buffalo History Museum, Buffalo Science, and remember, Science Museum is in Martin Luther King.
That's right.
Got a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, that conversation, I'm not aware of that having started yet in terms of what are we thinking about in terms of branding this new parkway once it's restored. But yeah, I think there's lots of opportunity to sort of start that effort and then talk about it. Yeah, we don't necessarily have to rename that anything. Could we have a new future? That's a great point.
Brian, I didn't hear Rock being mentioned. Isn't Rock part of this project?
So Rock is, again, an advocate
Okay.
for the project. The responsibility is the State Department of Transportation. So again, Rock is, with the questions about are they doing their due diligence here and there, Rock is the one at the table holding their feet to the fire. But it is the state's project, and the state will sort of need to go through the process.
So this was the state's project they want to do, and Rock just going to.
Is advocating for a solution,
I
is
thought it
advocating
was
for
their, project.
restoring the community.
I thought it was their project.
No, but they are certainly out in a leadership role, publicizing things.
Well, I have another question, Brian. We have been, Just Breathe Block Club has been requesting to have some type of partnership with Walks Barn. I have not heard anything else about that. Can you all from Olmsted please explain to our block club members here the position? Are you guys gonna work with the block club, or you just gonna table it? What are you gonna do? What is Olmsted gonna do?
Yeah, so I actually just brushed up on the emails. So
Okay.
about a year ago, we followed up on an email because there were these questions, and Stephanie had sent a letter a year prior asking some questions. The recommendation is we sit down and we go through those questions and find those answers. And again, I think we're still at that point of setting up a time to go through that letter and make sure we've answered all the questions. Because I know we talked about, like the last time we spoke, it was like, we think we've responded to that. I can assure you that we haven't found
Well,
those
Brad
answers.
Tony is
Yeah.
spearheading it, but I just
Yep.
want to ask the question because it seemed like it's at a standstill. And I hear all
Yep.
these other projects going on.
Yep.
And it is privately owned.
Mhm.
And the guy wants to get rid of it. And I feel that this is a huge part of this park.
Mhm.
So I don't know what's the cause is.
Yeah. I think we just,
Because he want to get rid of it. And
Right.
it would be a shame if we lose that Walks Barn that used to be in that park in the original beginning.
yep, I think, but we're at the point of where are we headed? Where's the money coming from? And I think it starts with all getting on the same page about where we're going with that. So say, let's have that email, let's pull those letters out, let's go through them. Yes, ma'am.
So what?
A neighborhood task force? There's gonna be a RFP review task force for the concessionaire that's going to occupy the casino.
For the building.
I think we see this as our neighborhood task force with regard to general park discussions.
That's not something that's been created under council.
The Councilman Pridgen, under
Councilmember
Wingo. Yep.
So we are working with the task force or the community group, I don't know, whatever name we want to call it, basically the community group that we will be working with to review the RFP submissions and to go through the process on making sure that we have, before we come to it. And for the MLK Junior Park Casino will be made out of community members, and we are working with the council member to identify, to build that task force.
That's where my question was, because I wanted to know, like, once you guys finish with this phase one, so what will your, what will your actual input be?
So the RFP is a proposal that we will send it out to the public. Right. So what do you mean by, can you repeat your question?
I'm asking in terms of just neighborhood task force that's going to be working. Now, once you finish with phase one, what is that they're
Phase one of.
which is talking about that?
Sure. So once the RFP goes out and once we have the task force, we will have submissions that roll in, right? So the community members in the task force will look at the submissions together with the Conservancy and with the city and council members to find out like which ones should be considered, which ones we should not consider, which ones do we want to, like, we'll go through a filtering process together, because ultimately the Conservancy places, we acknowledge that we don't live by MLK, right? take care of the park, we steward the park, but not all of us live by. So want to make sure that in the community task force that reviews these RFP submissions are made out of any of you who, if you're interested, let me know, who live by the park, for example, or organizations or special events organizers that have used the park for multiple years to make sure that you are in the task force to help identify a concessionaire that is the most suitable business to be in the city of Ville. Because ultimately, we want this in an ideal world, my dream, hopefully, I think it's everyone's ideal situation would be whoever is the business that goes in there is a business that understands the community, would be sensitive and understanding of the events that are going on in the community. Everyone knows that MLK Park is parks that have the most special events throughout the summer. The business that's in there needs to realize that and needs to accommodate their business to meet that need. So we want to make sure that we identify a concessionaire that is sensitive of all those things, have a good understanding of the climate of that.
And that will continue, that's something that will continue.
So the renovations are almost.
Renovations are done. So,
Done.
so building has been fully restored. We're hiring a concessionaire to operate it. This task force will help us pick, advise us on how to pick that, and then done.
Right.
Yeah,
That task force.
it's just one
is all
item that you're
back
trying
into-
to.
back into the ground. If we want to develop, if there's another project, another task force is needed, that'll be just a whole separate process.
Okay,
There's no phase
I'll,
two.
let me let her finish. You finish? Okay. When it comes to this task force, I want you all to please take into consideration the ones who live around there. Because when they were working over there and they put that dumpster, I was getting so many calls about that dumpster, and it was unfair how they did them homeowners over there. So I think when you think of this task force, contact some homeowners that's really concerned, or you're gonna have a fight on your hands, because they was really upset, and I didn't blame them when I went over there. I didn't even know it was over there.
Sure.
So think about that, and when you have these meetings also, I got calls about it, they were upset because they're not on social media. Just the perimeter of the park, somebody can just put some flyers in their mailbox. Just that simple. Because they would like to be at these meetings, but they hear about them at the last minute, and then they call me talking about, I can't make it. And we'll call in so maybe you can listen, but we gotta be more mindful of the perimeter homeowners of that park,
Absolutely.
especially this task force. Because we wanna know, wow, I'm excluding myself, but what is going on and what's gonna be going on over there, because we as homeowners hear it, see it, and gotta go through whatever goes on in that park.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
I'm gonna leave it right there.
So I think there is a process that can be established. Also make sure that the neighbors are like feedback, annual feedback on like, what do you think of the business this year? Should be like this kind of things that we can put in place once the process, once the RFP out.
We
So, yes.
didn't get updates until we came to this meeting. Event process. There's a stage, I love Star Park. You know. These be a number of accountability as well, to Brother Bell's point. When they come for these things, they do the garbage, they drive through the park, they put our children in danger, we wanna have things. Here they come. Park, you can, you know, but you can set it down for that, yeah. Yeah, and long term, but it's lifelong resident here in this neighborhood, many that I know is in this group. And that's the one thing we worry about. We got people double parking on streets, they're blocking people's driveway, they're putting up in the park, doing all that crazy stuff. Level of accountability when we talk about that, we need to be at the table as well. Vendors, having their events, all this going on. So yeah, we've got to make sure track a lot. I've got a series of elderly homeowners that are there that don't get that information, not on social media, not on the things, right? Get that information over to them themselves, but just to that dumpster.
Yep.
You know,
So just to make sure I understand, so the MLK Casino task force is the group on its own.
Yeah, that's its own.
Right, and you're referring to special events, which
Exactly, like Brian said, when you guys especially residents, you task force goes out to the neighborhood community, built in forever. They used to do their own sports and the city come down, now they leave it wide open, track down people, get things to lock up, and so streets, and, you know, everybody just up and back, and they're running up and driveways, or, you know, all this is going on. And we just need some accountability. It puts us at the table when we're talking.
maybe there's a way to, so when it comes to special events, we are in partnership with the city. A lot of the procedures and the process, the feedback and things like that. So maybe there's an opportunity where we can bring neighbors who live in the who live by MLK Park and some of the large special event organizers in the same room, share about feedback. I'm just giving ideas.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that we.
I mean, yeah, and I think we're working towards that, the efforts that we're making. We've had some conversations with the event organizers, so it's less about, you know, this miscellaneous event organizer and the Conservancy don't know each other. We're building relationships with all these event organizers, trying to sort of organize some of their challenges, which are porta potties and audio systems, you know, so we're kind of working both sides, and I think what we're saying is the Conservancy is committed to be that bridge between the community and these events. Yep. Yeah, I think.
Brian, what's going on with security? What's going on?
Well, so with regard to the on-site security, that, from what I understand, is in place until the cameras are up. The contractor is in the process of getting those cameras up. And that is, again, part of that lighting project. So that contractor.
So we still do have security?
That's my understanding.
Do
I
we?
should verify that.
Troy will know. Do we still have security? Yeah, I didn't see security. And the
Okay.
reason why I asked is because on my way over here, one of the homeowners called me. It was a big brawl on North Parade. They was fighting on top of the cars. And this is 45 minutes before I came here tonight.
Okay.
Something is going on with these children. It started Friday. Somebody got beat up real bad on East Parade, North Parade and Fillmore. It was about, I don't know how many police cars and ambulance and everything on that corner. And then police was flying down Genesee, so it kind of trapped the kids out because I'm standing on the porch watching them run, at least 50 of them running down Fillmore. That was Friday, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I found out yesterday it was a big fight from East High School. And then tonight it carried on, and the lady told me she heard the girl say to the other girl, "You beat up somebody, so we beat you up." We beat the girl up so bad they pulling her clothes off and everything. Yes, so that's why I'm asking about security, because she's calling me and I'm saying, "Is the police there?" And she said that the NFTA police was there, but they was just riding in the car and didn't do anything. So I called one of the anti-crime groups, and they said they were gonna do something. I told them I was on my way here, but we need to keep our security in the parks, because she said some of them went, like half of them went in the park and just sat in the park and waited. And so this was as I left.
Okay.
They were sitting in the park waiting. I don't know what else is going on, if something else happened, but we need to keep security over there, because she was scared. They could have pulled out anything. Her house was right there, their vehicles, and they was fighting on top of one of their cars. So this, I don't know. No, it just happened on my way here today. They did all they can.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. So we were doing these quarterly. We've shifted this to a biannual event. So we'll be coming back together as a large group in the fall. There are a variety of ways for, planning like newsletters for information to come out. But basically the information in, if you feel like you've got information, we will schedule one-on-one meetings with you to get all your information downloaded and we can keep that conversation going. But in terms of bringing the whole group together, we're doing that twice a year.
People have comments or questions, and they feedback.
Yep.
You have to get together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
That just be an open conversation. You have questions and comments.
yeah. I'll wrap up. We got a couple slides to sort of talk about that in terms of Facebook groups and online stuff. But certainly Z is kind of that network in. So let's connect before the end of the meeting. The last thing I'm contractually obligated to get through, which I've been trying to do. I'm sorry, we're running a little late, but getting at the idea of what's happening next, what we're talking about projects that are ongoing. We do something called a 5-year plan, and it's done obviously every 5 years. And that is something where we have a very comprehensive effort of gathering community input, and then we consolidate it, we vet it, and then those are the projects we put all of our energy into fundraising on. We do that on a rolling basis every 5 years. We did that extensively 2018, 2019 to launch in 2020, and we are planning 2025 to 2029. We're starting that process. Again, it's a year-long process that we're going to do through the course of 2024. But what that is based on is user data. So the question of, hey, we got tennis courts, but people are playing cricket on them. That's something that we need to gather this user data. And the way we're going to do it, starting this summer, is hopefully through a volunteer effort, involving people from the community to participate in a training this summer. And then over the course of the year, starting in July, not overly intensive, but frequent, so that we can get a snapshot of how people are using the park through the year, trying to build this network of people to help us gather this data, so that when we start that process, we can say, these tennis courts are getting used for cricket on these days. These tennis courts sit empty on these days, or these tennis courts have 50 people waiting in line to play tennis on these days. We need to get all that information so we can make smart decisions about what we're going to invest in addition to doing what the community just wants us to do. So data gathering, 5-year planning, starting this summer. I'm excited. You guys should be excited. We're going to sort of set the stage for what are our priorities for the next 5 years, whether that's, we need to keep investing in lighting. We need to keep investing in pathways. We need to start the conversation on the Vox Barn. That's the priority for the community. Fix a playground, invest in a building, fix sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera. This is the process that helps us make those decisions so that we can target fundraisers and we can get money for this park. So excited to get that process started. You're going to hear more from me on that. And again, to that previous question, Z would love to schedule a one-on-one meeting with you. She would love to coordinate on how we can get more people engaged. We do keep talking about doing flyers. Let's do flyers for this next meeting. We got our newsletter coming out, our community paper. But again, email directly to Z. We've got our website. So news and information is always there. So anyone who says they don't know about the meeting, you say, well, write this email address down and check it every month. And there's going to be information there. Sign up for the Facebook page, get in that group, Facebook. We'll understand lots of tools for communication there. So, we do want to do this, and any other ideas you have about better ways to communicate, with people of all ages, get the conversation started on this next round of projects for this new 5-year plan. We want to start all these conversations, and we want to do it in a variety of ways. things we try to do with this meeting, make it more fun with the open house, so we can talk in detail, bring you food. So we're just coming up with all sorts of ideas to make these more engaging meetings. So we hope you appreciate it. But again, we're always open to flexing it to meet the community's needs. So with that, I've kept you 5 minutes longer. I'm happy to stay until they kick me out. They look like they might want to kick me out right now.
Brian, real quick,
but yeah.
I think the newsletters would be good to just send them to the seniors in the area. If me and Brad can get some addresses for the seniors and send them some newsletters. Yeah, and then you guys could send them some newsletters. I think that would be good.
Great.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts? All right.
Let's meet for lunch.
Great. Yeah, so thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Helpful for you. Let's keep the conversation going. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, huge issue. Goose. Mhm. Mhm. Sure.
City ordinance.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
No signs
Mhm.
where they can force, they can follow. There's a sign that they can.
Mhm.
Entrance of the property. In.
Yeah, that's a great point. At our last meeting, because this was prior to all the fortification of the perimeter parks. So people saying like, people don't know they can't drive on the park because you don't have the right sign. So we went through that sign thing, but this is another issue. We need to, I can get you the information. Right. Right.
You know, yeah,
So, but that's a key issue. Yeah, because you don't want people being afraid to come to the park.
yeah, she won't know. We want to walk in the park. Not quite across the park. I can help. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, people say, no, my dog's nice. Like, yeah, my dog's animal. You don't know what your dog is thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Precisely.
I mean, there's something on the road you can think about doing.
Mhm.
Don't get in there. They can
Yeah.
take their.
The pros and cons.
There's a liability issue.
That's
I get. City.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, get the right signs. Yeah, thank you very much for coming out. Red, see you.
Good to see you as always, man.
Yeah.
No, great job and stuff, man. I was just saying to say a lot of the things in it, but I don't want to interrupt the baller and the folder.
You guys and the city, or you guys? It's the city's project. Okay. City's money, city's capital projects manager, Steve. I'm sure you know Steve.
Okay.
He's the one running that project, hired contractors.
Okay.
So he gives us updates, but it's not our project.
I gotta get to Steve. Yeah, because Andy's kind of out of the mix.
Well, he's Steve's boss.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
He's kind of doing his, he's up on his, handling his administrative stuff, and Steve, you're the guy to figure this out. But I do know that they said they are, what did I get? I just got a text from Stephanie. Boulders.
Yeah.
We'll start in 2 weeks. So. Yeah.
Are they giving where do we get the schematic of where?
Yeah, I can show you that.
There is,
Bell, I'm excuse myself. Okay. I'll keep you informed. All right. All right. Tell me where you get it, write it down. Here's my card.
so I can, okay. It is so
Either
dangerous.
call me, email me.
Thank you.
And what I will try to do is cut through the mustard.
I
See
appreciate
if I can get the signs up.